If you'll allow me to start with a verbal meme, they had us in the first half, not gonna lie. After what was an awful, horrendous first period, the Ottawa Senators show up and ball out for the rest of the game, earning a 4-3 victory over the Washington Capitals. I'm Ross Levitan, and welcome to the Postcast. I'm alongside Brandon Piller and Jack Richardson. The Postcast always brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. Check out the GCP where the vibes are free at 779 Bank Street, and let them know that Locked On Senator sent you. You can get your Glebe Central Pub ticket, shuttle, bus to the CTC for just $18. Pillsy, what a game.
What a win. I mean, this game had ups and downs. I was ready to pull out the panic button, and then I was ready to put away. Then I was ready to pull it back out again. This team never makes it easy, but they got the win. They got the win at home, which is huge. This crowd needed it after booing the team off the ice. They battled, and they deserve the rowdy CTC crowd at the end of it here. And I wanted this one in regulation bad. Jack, we were talking before the show that, look, if they would have got this one to just overtime, even if they would have won in overtime, it would not have been the same. We needed this regulation win, and the boys found a way to get it done.
Yeah, when the standings are this tight, Pillsy, even regulation wins are better than overtime wins. That's a tiebreaker if you're knotted up with that many teams. So getting two like that, especially having the lead late, losing it, and then battling in 2 minutes later, Fabian Zetterlund with his biggest goal as a Senator by far, just coming up absolutely clutch. But that was an up and down game. Like you guys mentioned, that was not pretty to start. We thought, here we go again, 4-game losing streak. The first period was as ugly as we've seen. I thought it was the Columbus game all over again. So the ability to respond is very encouraging and starts off 2026 on the right foot here, New Year's Day.
Yeah, awesome, rare weekday afternoon start, and shout out to the CTC, fourth straight sellout over the holidays at the building, and they got treated to a phenomenal second half. Look, I know it was a great game for Ottawa the first time these two teams met this season, 7-1. However, other than that, we're looking at a nice little rivalry between these two games. It was chippy before the opening face-off with Tom Wilson and Brady Tkachuk getting into it. Tim Stützle getting into it off the top. And then Artem Zub takes down Alexei Protas in the first period. Then Dylan Strome comes in, and he's got to be hearing from the league for that one. Coming in with a spear right through him and then jumping down. We don't need to get into the refs. I thought they were brutal kind of both ways on this one. Thought it was a bit of a weak call on Amadio to draw the Senators on the power play in the third period late. However, all's well that ends well, and the Senators get that 4-3 victory. I actually want to jump on that note, though, with the Senators getting a pair of power plays in the third period and not being able to produce a goal. Pillsy, was that kind of a thought in your head, like, oh, here we go again? Because it's not the first time where they've either had a lead or been tied in the third and not been able to convert, and then the other team scores right away.
Yeah, I mean, both of them, I thought, okay, this is going to be the momentum boost that pushes this game out of reach for the Capitals. And they almost had it on the first third period penalty, but no goal called on the ice emphatically. That was a tough one because it was under Thompson's pads, but I don't feel like Pinto aggressively shoved him into the net. I think he was going for a play on the puck, and it wasn't like he had it frozen or covered. So I really wish they would have called it a goal on the ice and then would have had to decide whether to overturn it or not. But the Ottawa Senators find a way to get it done. But yeah, and then the Beauvillier penalty happens. And I was like, okay, the hockey gods are going to allow the Sens to score on this power play since they got one taken back. But doesn't turn out that way.
So one goal called back, we'll say called back, ruled no goal on the ice, but questionable. And the Senators hit 3 posts. Now, on one of them, Jake Sanderson's, Nick Jensen then fires one on net. It pinballs off a couple of Capitals and finds its way in. So they do score on the tail end of that post. But Jack, did it almost feel like it was so close but so far until Fabian Zetterlund put this team ahead for the final time late in the third?
Yeah, and I think we got to also mention the way they were getting these chances finally. Like when they started to turn the game around in the second period, it was guys like Nick Cousins, Ridley Gregg, Michael Amadio doing what they do best in the corners. Stephen Halliday was great along the boards, had a nice play to David Perron for the go-ahead goal at the time in the third. When they start doing that stuff, that's how they generate offense. You end up this game with 4 5-on-5 goals. almost out of nowhere because it was pretty quiet before that. But yeah, even in the second, Batherson rings one off the post on a hard forecheck from Stützle. Like, that's how this team generates opportunities. And when they're able to do that, take advantage of a team that's a bit tired in the Capitals, you could see as that game wore on, you can tell they played yesterday. So obviously that's an advantage for the Sens, but that's their game. When we talk about an identity and how the Sens like to play, and when they play like that, when they're on pucks, forechecking, winning battles, they're hard to beat. They can beat anyone in the league. And that's why these last few games have been a bit frustrating, because it's almost looks like it's been a lack of effort. And then they almost just turned on a dime after the first period today, which is great to see. But Pilsy, for me, I know I just mentioned it, but that fourth line, because we spent a lot of time talking about McDermott and his impact and how he's not doing enough to be in the lineup every night. Doesn't play today. Stephen Halliday draws in, and you start the game with a fourth line of Ridley Gregg, Stephen Halliday, and Nick Cousins. It's pretty good to me, and they end up producing with Perron back there. I thought Halliday was awesome tonight. I think he's been so good game after game, being able to impact this game offensively in the limited role he's on really shows, like, if they can be a four-line team, that's how you win cups. That's how you compete in the playoffs, having four lines you can roll out there. And Halliday, you got to keep him up at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, and not only keep him up, Jack, but as long as Eller's out, I want him in every game. Like, there's no excuse for me to swap Halliday and McDermott. Like, it just seems crazy at this point, especially because I really like what he provides to that second power play as well. Like, anytime he's out there, I feel like guys are so active when Halliday has the puck because they're like, I know he's going to find a way to get it to me somehow. So I'm not just going to stand still and be tied up by this defenseman. I'm moving. I'm getting open. I'm finding a way to do it. And a perfect example of that was that big goal. And you got to give credit to Nick Cousins, though, because he battled behind the net and recovered it twice and then makes it available for Halliday to get it. And then heads up play by Halliday. He spots Perron out front. Nice backhand pass right on the tape, and it goes bar down and in. Like, that's an impressive play to get from two guys, Nick Cousins and Halliday, not making a whole lot of money and having a big impact there. And boys, Perron needed that goal because he was in the doghouse after taking that tripping penalty when the Sens were on the power play. They panned the camera over to Travis Green after. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he yells, "Wake the F up," to Perron as he's skating back to the penalty box there. So that was a good one to get out of the doghouse.
And that's a second straight game with an ozone penalty, and that's just not the tight and lazy stick penalties where it's like you're not even like fighting tooth and nail for a puck.
Well,
like,
he was working on that loose puck to keep it in, though, Ross. But
it was too far gone.
That's the thing. His timing was off there. Like, you have to know that, hey, I'm not going to get there. It sucks. This puck's going to get cleared, but I can't afford to take a bad penalty like that.
Yeah, and with that note, he goes down, like you mentioned, after that, and he's playing a more limited role. And Travis Green, like, there's been some heat on him, I think, over the last couple of games, but his lineup moves in game today were money. He makes the move to take Giroux off of that line with Pinto and Amadio. He puts him with Stützle and Zetterlund, moving Tkachuk with Cousins and Batherson. And what happens? You get the game-winning goal with Giroux out there. I know he didn't touch the puck on that play. It was awesome from Chabot. Great. We'll get into that more on the other side. But Tim Stützle extends his point streak to 11 with the secondary assist. Chabot dances and finds Fabian Zetterlund for that goal. But it was really what the other move made, opening up that spot for Ridley Gregg to slide up with Pinto and Amadio. And that was the line last year, right? That was the OG shut it down line. They were out there at the end of the game when Washington pulled their goalie. I didn't love Ridley going for the empty net 2 feet from the red line. Just get there, bud. Just get there. I even preferred Sandy going from 200 feet down the ice because it would have been hilarious if it went in. But you show that your team's confident that they can win D-zone draws when you're able to just say, hey, we're going for this empty net. And if we got to win another draw, we'll do it. But Jack, what'd you see from that shutdown line of Pinto, Gregg, and Amadio? Should also note, like, we're 10 minutes into the show, this was a spectacular offensive performance from Shane Pinto with a pair of assists, his first points since being out with injury.
Feels very good to have Shane Pinto back in that lineup. I'll say that. And Ridley Gregg, I don't want to make it sound like Ridley Gregg didn't do a great job in his absence, because he did, and it's great that he's riding that wave, because you were wondering when Pinto came back, where are you going to find a home for Ridley Gregg? Is it on the wing? Because he hasn't looked that good on the wing for the most part. And then we just talked about Halliday being in that fourth line spot. You want him there. Where's Gregg going to go? So they found a spot for him. That line with Pinto, Amadio Giroux wasn't quite gelling. And again, it's not to say they won't be back together at some point, but putting Gregg back there, it works because you had them last year. And this was this team's most consistent line last season, and they really found a shutdown role. And I think Ridley Gregg starting to find his game really helps because all of a sudden you switch that and then Pinto and Amadio come to life and they're all over the score sheet tonight. So having Pinto back there really slots everything properly. You're able to play with Cousins and Stützle's lines a little bit more freely, I'd say. But to me, it's all about Ridley Gregg just getting to the front of the net. He doesn't get credit for that first goal. He's in the vicinity, let's say. He's in Thompson's eyes. It goes in for Jensen. He gets credit for the second one being in front of the net, a weird bounce. It's goals that are lucky technically, but he's going to the right spots, Ridley Gregg is. So I think that he deserves a lot of credit because he was one of the guys, even when they were cooking, when Tkachuk was out, that he wasn't doing a ton. He got injured. So it's great to see him being able to produce offensively and actually impact the game night in and night out. He's been on a really, really good stretch. I believe it's 3 goals in the last 4 games here for Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, it's awesome. And our New Year's resolution was for him to get back to that 34-point pace that he had last season. And it was a slow start offensively. Nice to see that coming around. The Senators win 4-3 over the Washington Capitals, and they snap their skid. Jack, how many games have they lost in a row before this one?
3.
3? Okay. Can you read that second line in your sentence promoting
Listen,
the podcast?
we're all guilty. We're all guilty of thumbs when we're trying to tweet fast. It was not a 31-game losing streak. Can confirm. Although it might have felt like it for a little bit there, boys. So I understand maybe a little confusion by me, but I hand up on that one. It's not a 31-game losing streak. Thankfully.
Hey, hand up and now feet up, Sens fans, because there's a lot of action that directly affects the Senators tonight with the Leafs in action against a Western Conference team. You've got the Canadians taking on the Hurricanes. The Lightning have a 5-game win streak. They're going into LA to take on the Kings. So those games are a lot more fun to watch after the Senators pull off a victory. And I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I'm not afraid to say it with the Sens 1-0 in 2026. After the second period, I went to my NHL app, I opened the standings, and I took a screenshot of them in last place in the division and second last place in the conference. And I hope to post that in a couple of months when the Senators find their rhythm and get into a playoff spot. The chat's buzzing. We love to see that. We'll get to it next. We'll get to our Sens Central standouts. Game recap continues. Huge victory for the Ottawa Senators to kick off the calendar year. You're listening to the postcast presented by Locked On Sens.
Today's episode is brought to you by Hat Switch, the Glebe Central Pub. Everybody knows the GCP is our bar in the heart of the nation's capital. You got to check them out at 779 Bank Street. And look, the weather's been crazy these past couple days in Ontario. So why not do yourself a favor and get to the GCP and use the shuttle? Go to their website, and you can check out all the dates that they have the shuttle available. It's the best deal in town. It gets you to the game and back to the bar. Sue knows all the best routes. She's going to get there faster than your buddy, faster than an Uber, faster than even the Leams Martian, because the GCP is the best way to get to Sens games. And Ross pulled up the website. Sens Jets, Sens Wings, Sens Panthers, Sens Canucks, and Sens Habs. All
Huge
available.
games in there.
Yeah, all available on the Glebe Central Pub website for $18. That gets you a round trip. So you got to use our bar. Great drinks, great food, great people, and visit them at 779 Bank Street. Everybody knows the vibes are free at the GCP.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our very good friends over at FanDuel. It is amazing how much fun you can have live betting over at FanDuel. If you did it when the Sens were down 2-0 today, you're laughing all the way to the bank. Fridays, they already feel different during hockey season, and FanDuel's making them even better. Oh, boy, how about during the NBA happy hour that's now happening at FanDuel? If you go every Friday right before games tip off, FanDuel's giving fans a new way to kick off the weekend with this NBA happy hour. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with this happy hour. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check out the weekly specials before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing's perfect right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds a little energy to Friday night hoops without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little hoops, little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel. It's the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the postcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller and Jack Richardson. You can find the links to all of our socials below and check out the Everydayers Club, just $5 USD a month, $50 USD a year, and you can get Locked On Senators ad-free wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, 4-3, the Senators get a huge win at home over the Washington Capitals, and now, footsteps for the Capitals. The Caps, man, 47 points. Senators just 4 points back of them with 2 games in hand on top of that, just speaking to how important that regulation victory is. The Caps currently in the top wildcard spot. Shots on goal today favored the Senators 32-29. The Caps go 1 for 4 on the power play. Ottawa 0 for 4. Tight matchup in the faceoff dot. Washington with a slight edge by about 1%. Ottawa with 32 hits in this game to Washington's 15, and the Capitals blocked 19 shots to Ottawa's 14. Senators with a 60.5 lead in the expected goals percentage at 5-on-5. Look, we'll get into the first period and what went wrong, because with the victory, it's easy to overlook it. But man, that was a brutal first period. After it, though, the Senators were on point. They outshot the Caps by a margin of 26-13, and a flurry of those Capital shots came late in the game when they had the goalie pulled. I thought Levi Merrilainen, despite not reaching that .900 save percentage, you know what he did have, Pilsy? A plus goal saved above expected.
Okay, I thought you were going to go he had a win, because what was our New Year's resolution for Levy? Just win, baby. Just find a way to win. I didn't think Levy was very good tonight. Now, was he terrible? No, but I didn't think that this was one of his better games.
2 moments I thought really stuck out for me with Merrilainen. One with the goalie pulled. He was calm. There's one save he made right after Ottawa went up where it was a very, very I would say mature save for him. And the other was the Capitals power play in the early in the third, or was it in the second, where he stopped Ovi twice?
In the second, yeah. That was a big one for sure, because that's a tough one, because he had to get across the crease, and that shot went through Ridley Gregg trying to block it. And also, I don't know if you know Alexander Ovechkin, greatest goal scorer of all time. So that's fair. But I really think that this is one that I want to give a lot of credit to the whole team. They showed a lot of maturity here. Like, it would have been easy after that second period to be like, oh, we're down 2-0. First period. Yes, rather. First period, we're down 2-0. It's one of the best goalies in the league right now, just named to Canada's Olympic roster, and Logan Thompson. The Caps are rolling. Tom Wilson scores. Like, how are we going to find our way out of this one? And they get it done. So that they deserve a lot of credit here. And they needed to get it done at the CTC, because imagine they go down 2-0 in the first and then they lose this game. Oh man, we could have had riots on our hand at in an afternoon on a Thursday to start off this year. So Jack, I'm glad they were able to get the home win, and the good people, best in class Sens fans, let them know they were appreciative of it.
Yeah, the energy felt like it was there in that building again, and it's been some great crowds over the holidays here. So thankfully they got a win. But Pilsy, I'm going to just disagree with the Merrilainen thing. I thought he was great today. I actually thought he was great. Like, maybe the Strome goal I want him to have on the power play, but other than that, excuse me, I think he, made some saves that maybe aren't, stealing the game, but he really kept them in it, especially in the second period in the beginning. It took a few minutes for the Sens to find their legs before that Jensen goal goes in. That could easily have been a 3-0, 4-0 game, just the way the Capitals were shooting, the looks they were getting. I thought Merrilainen was great. And then again, it's just the timely saves. It's the times he's making the saves that haven't quite been there for the Sens, but in their wins, every time they win, you can point to goaltending, certain moments where they make a nice save. Like, I think after Protas scored, the Caps had a great chance right after that too. And he makes a nice save just in front, kind of gets a quick rebound. So it's not perfect from him. It's building, but again, it's finding a way to win. And I think that it leaks into the game because you sit there halfway through the second period. We haven't played a good game here, but the goaltender's keeping us in it. And the Sens found their legs then, and then were able to take over the game. So huge credit to Maryland. It wasn't the reason they won, but certainly gave them a position, put them in a position to win. And then, yeah, like they had an opportunity to find their legs, which is important. And then certain guys stepped up, like we'll mention, I think, if we get into some Sens Central standouts.
Yeah, we'll do that in a couple moments, but finding their legs, nothing was more visible of that than the opening goal. And it's funny because Nick Jensen just right place, right time, puck on net, good play. But the way, and when you watch on TV, the zoomed out one, the way Jake Sanderson flew into the offensive zone to make a play there was outstanding. And he was all over the ice skating today. I thought he had a really, really good game defending against Ovechkin. There were a couple times he closed him out on the wall. I thought Sanderson was awesome in this game, and it was nice to see the boys come through, getting it to 2-1, obviously huge, tying it up in the last minute of the second period. There was 29 seconds left when Ridley Gregg's goal happened. So you're able to carry that momentum in. They get a goal early in the third period, and then they're able to just shut it down for the most part. Like Protas's goal was the second shot of the period for the Washington Capitals at that time. Like they had absolutely shut it down. And Nick Jensen, I don't really know what he was doing there, kind of backing off the guy wide open in the slot. He had a Jekyll and Hyde game today. Like, he scores the goal. I thought he jumped up into the rush. He was good in the second period, but defensively the miscues are there. And that can kind of lead us in to the first period of this game where I don't know what the heck happened for a team that was so aware that they didn't play well at all in front of the home crowd against Columbus. They came out and just got it taken to them physically, emotionally, on the scoreboard. Pillsy, like, they were lucky to be down just 2-0.
Yeah, seriously. And I mean, that hit that Sordeev had on Shabbat, oh my God. And say what you want, but in my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, I thought that was a clean hit. Like, that was just a good hit. He catches him in a vulnerable moment. It's almost old school where there was a couple guys that made a career, like Colby Armstrong, and he even has mentioned this. He made a living out of catching guys behind the net with their head down. And that's kind of what happened to Shabbat there. And Shabbat goes down hard, gets a scratch on his face somehow, cut on his lip, and that really sparks things. And speaking to the physicality of it, how about a big boost for the bench and the boys from Drake Batherson? Like, no Curtis McDermott, no problem. We got a guy that can stand up for teammates here. And I love that from Drake, because it can't always just be the enforcers that do it, because that's their job. They're supposed to do it. It doesn't have that same oomph when it's a guy that's in your top 6, a point per game player that's like, no, I'm taking this into my own hands. This is unacceptable. And he held his own out there. Like, I thought at the very worst, that's a draw. Maybe even give the win to Batherson. I don't know.
Well, him showing up was the win in and of itself, right? And then he got a couple of solid rights in there. And Sordeev seems like a tough customer. I don't know a whole lot about his physical game, but he showed that he was going to stand up for his teammate. Would have liked to seen Jensen drop the gloves right away, stand up for his D partner like that, but wasn't to be the case. And Batherson, I said at the time, like, that's great for Batherson, but there's some other guys that should probably look themselves in the mirror. And the fact that went on for an extra shift, I didn't think it needed to. But after the game, Shabbat did tell Claire Hanna he's got to keep his head up. And I saw in the chat, Senator saying it as well. Like, Chris Neal would have told Shabby he did that to himself. Like, that was a classic Chris Neal hit where he's coming downhill. And if the defenseman doesn't have his head up, man, you're going to eat the ice in a hurry. I know it was the other side of the net, but he had a hit on Victor Hedman, Chris Neal did in his rookie year, that looked a lot like that. It wasn't as funny from the standpoint of a 5'10" guy smoking a 6'6" monster in Hedman down. But yeah, Sordeev got a lot of him. And you know what? Yeah, that's probably a tip my cap play. And that wasn't one where I felt like needed to be a penalty against Washington. I was more confused when Zub got the extra penalty. It was a trip for sure, 2 minutes. But
yeah, where's that roughing come into play? He's down on the ground getting speared in the chest.
And it's a slashing call on Strome. That was a little weak. There were some calls tonight that were just interesting. But
I'm not a Riley Brace guy. Never have been. Grew up playing against him a bit when he was with Ottawa Valley Titans, and always a bit greasy out there. I remember he reffed his first game. It was Ottawa Montreal. I was like, this guy was a Habs prospect for a bit. What the heck? But neither here nor there. Senators prevail and get a huge 4-3 victory. Send Central standouts on the other side. You're watching the postcast presented by Locked On Senators. Welcome back to the postcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller and Jack Richardson. If you or someone you know wants to advertise and get your local business out there, shoot us a note. You can get our contact info through the YouTube bio. And if you want to support the boys and get Locked On Senators ad-free, check out the Everydayers Club, just $5 a month. You can also get our All Access Pass, which is the Step Up initiative, some bonus content in there, and a 15% discount in the Locked On merch store, as well as, of course, the ad-free aspect. Let's start some Send Central standouts. I feel like we've been kind of mentioning a few guys throughout the show. Stephen Halliday. I went off about Jake Sanderson having a great game as well. Pilsy, you're back in your studio, so let's go with you first.
Yes, it's good to be back, and thanks everyone for understanding if my audio was not at its crispiest. I didn't have my mic on the road with me, so hopefully my takes might not be any better, but hopefully at least the audio is a little bit better and more enjoyable to listen to. And talk about someone getting better and more enjoyable to watch. Shane Pinto has knocked the rust off his boots here tonight, guys. 2 points in this one. Not so great in the faceoff dot, 37.5, but I really thought that he was looking much more like himself out there. And we know when Shane Pinto finds a way to get a point, and especially multiple points, this team's chances of winning increase dramatically. So it's great to have number 12 back.
Do you know what the updated stat is? Because it's actually ridiculous. I was like, man, I haven't been tracking this in a while, and he's been back a game, and I think he played a couple after his last point. Well, it's still very good. 75, 15, and 9 in 99 games. So out of 99 games where Shane Pinto has a point, they've only failed to register a point in 15 of them. Ridiculous.
Insane.
Ridiculous. When he gets 2 points, they're now 16, 3, and 3, which is also kind of wild that 3 of the 15 losses when Pinto has a point comes when he has 2. But anyways, that's inside baseball there. But shout out to the LOSB stats department sticking with that one. Part of me wants to give my first Send Central standout to Travis Green. As I mentioned, the lineup moves he made throughout this game really worked. It was a game that didn't have a whole lot of 5-on-5. There were a couple plays where it was 4-on-4 afterwards. Cousins got tied up with someone. They threw them both in. So with that, at 5-on-5, I felt like he did a good job managing the bench. But one of the guys that really stood out to me in this game, he was the first star in the building. Thomas Chabot needs some love today. We didn't call him out on today's show, but we just said, hey, you look what Chychrun's doing over there, and you look what Chabot's been doing. You want him to reach that next level of offense in his game, and for him to set up the game winner. I mean, it couldn't have been more poetic to happen today. And he's obviously had some success against Washington, the OT winner on his birthday last year, which is coming up on exactly a year away. It was January 30th. But I thought Chabot battling through that, going to the room. He was late coming out for the second period, all cut up. Like, he just looked like a hockey player out there today. So I'm a big fan of the way that Thomas Chabot played, and to battle through that and still end up finishing this game with 22:54 time on ice plus 2 block shots as well. Shout out to Shabby.
He was great, man. He just, like, the fact that he's been here for so long, the longest, and seeing all this through and transforming his game defensively. I thought he was awesome tonight. And yeah, they need a lot more of that out of him. That play to Zetterlund, like that's a world-class pass, because he doesn't have a shot, and those are frustrating when they do have a shot and then they make those passes. But that was a great play from him. He was on his backhand.
I'll just spinorama to start the play too. Like, he took it on his backhand, spun off, just beautiful all around. Jack,
the ability to jump up in the rush is something we take for granted, having Chabot and Sanderson back there both. But when he's gone, you notice it when no one else can do it other than Sanderson. So it's Chabot's best attribute is offense, and he's contributing. So I'm going to go with Ridley Gregg. I mentioned him a little bit. I think he's just been so solid. He's been so solid. He's bringing it every shift. When he's at his best, boys, he's always doing something off on the side of the screen where you're like, who is that up there with another Capital or another player? It's always Ridley Gregg, and he's always in the mix, getting to the front of the net, agitating the other team. Took some big runs tonight too. Like, he's not a big guy, we know that, but Tom Wilson had a couple run-ins with that. And when Tkachuk and Wilson are going at it, the rest of the team needs to kind of answer that a little bit and get that kind of, stick up your nose in their game. And Ridley Gregg's the next guy I look at to do that. And he's been awesome at that. I'd say for the last 3 weeks, really. He's been fantastic. So another Ridley Gregg type of goal for him tonight. And hopefully he can just kind of keep it rolling, because he's been, after a really slow start offensively, now up to 5 goals on the year.
Yeah, it's been good to see from Ridley, and it's important to find ways to contribute. Now that Shane Pinto's back, he's not going to have a top 9 center position. Maybe if Travis Green wants to put him on the wing, he can take some of those shifts on that second line instead of David Bromp, but he's got to find ways to produce in the shorter, more limited role he has now, and this is a good way to do it, showing like this.
Yeah, no doubt. And shout out to the fourth line, too. I know we talked about it, or let's say the guys who played the least today, because they all came through. Nick Cousins had an assist and was noticeable. Didn't love him taking that cross-checking penalty. The other one was a coincidental. Who cares? But didn't love that penalty from him. But he has that big assist where it was a nice play to start it off to get it to Halliday. And then Halliday getting the apple there. He only played 654 in this game. And I got to think how about half of it was on the power play with that second unit. So shout out to those guys for coming through. And Fabian Zetterlund only played 10 minutes and 30 seconds in this game.
I was just going to say, yeah, winner. Impactful stat line though, too. No, like 2 shots, a block, 2 hits. Zetterlund's been great too. I think he's really found his game. 10 goals now, and that's clutch. That's clutch. Like that's what you bring him in for, to score those types of goals, man. Not all of them can do that.
Nope, they can't. Timmy went 6 for 9 in the dot for 67%. We mentioned his point streaks now at 11 games. Got 18 points during this 11-game point streak. His longest point streak was 14 games, but he had 20 points during that. So he's already only 2 points away from matching that. But we want to get him to a 15-game heater. Like, let's go. He's not going to come close to what was Danny Heatley's, like 23 games, and that was to start the season too. Might have even been to start his Senators career. But Timmy was dancing at times tonight, and just an overall gritty win by the boys to get that. That's got to be a locker room boost right now.
And I just want to give Timmy a little credit, because on that game-winning goal, Timmy enters the zone with Ridley Gregg, and then Ridley just, I don't know whether the coach was yelling at him, but Ridley just decides, I got to get to the bench right now. And Timmy was going to give him that pass to the middle, and then Timmy's kind of sitting there like, okay, I'll just hold it and wait for support. And then he waits long enough to draw 2 defenders towards him. Then right when they both close in on him, he spots Shabby joining the rush like we talked about. And then Shabby, it's not an easy one for him. He has to do that spinorama and then get it over to Zetterlund. And yeah, clutch game-winning goal. And I love watching Zetterlund score, because he is so fired up. He gets down on one knee, does the full pump, sees a row of Caps fans in the front row, smashes the glass up against them, and sellies with the boys. Like, that's awesome. You want to see that passion, that emotion.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the Senators that has that oomph after he scores a goal. Here, I pulled it up if everybody's curious. Yeah, Danny Heatley started his Senators career on a 22-game point streak. That's absolutely outrageous. He had 38 points, 17 goals in his first 22 games with the Ottawa Senators. So I don't know if he's going to get there. He also holds the next season the second longest point streak in Sens history at 16 games. Then it's Timmy's 14-game point streak. 2 have 13. Drake Batherson back in 2022, and Marian Hossa. Well, Tim Stützle's with twice Jason Spezza, Alexei Yashin, and Daniel Alfredson as the only players in Senators history to have point streaks of 11 games or more. If you're looking at this and seeing 10, of course, NHL.com takes a little while to update that. But Timmy, active. That A is for active, and he has been a superstar for the Ottawa Senators. But tonight, it was about comebacks. It was about not getting rattled when the game got tied in the third period, and it was about a regulation victory. The Senators had lost 3 straight games, 1 point, obviously, in the Buffalo loss, and then falling to 2 teams who at the time were below them in the standings in the Eastern Conference in Toronto and Columbus. But man, does this feel good. And now you look ahead, like we'll have a full weekend preview on tomorrow's Locked On Sens, but the Winnipeg Jets are 32nd place in the NHL, boys. Like they are dead last, and they've been on the road for a little while now. They lost 2-1 to the Detroit Red Wings the other day. They're going to be coming in pissed off. They play against the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, and that game Saturday. We are all Jets. I love when that happens, when West teams come through Eastern Canada. You root for them so hard twice, and then against them even harder for the third game of that. But yes, Ottawa needs to get that win, and then it leads up to Monday against the Detroit Red Wings, who are first in the Atlantic Division, but Ottawa's got them 4 times this season, and the Senators have 2 games in hand on them right now. So this is going to be a critical home stretch for the Senators, and getting the victory today goes a long way to getting them back in the mix. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's postcast?
It's great to do a Vibecast again. I didn't know if we were ever going to get to celebrate a Sens win in our lifetime after this 3-game winless streak. It feels like so long ago that they got a win. I know the Christmas break in there. I mean, it was a year ago since we were looking at a win before this one. So thank God they got it done. And it's great to be with over 260 Sens fans in here vibing on a Thursday afternoon. Now, like Ross said, there's nothing better when you got the early game, your team wins, you can sit back and just be like, all right, let's hope all these Eastern teams lose, and we can get in a good spot in the standings. So I love it. I love it, boys.
Jack, how you feeling, buddy?
Feeling good, boys. Feeling good. Great way to start the new year with a Sens win. That would not have been a good way to start with a loss. 1-0 in 2026. The 5 years of unparalleled success are officially over. We're on to a new chapter officially. That's a little tongue-in-cheek joke there, obviously. But happy for the win. Obviously happy to be back doing a Vibecast, and looking forward to the next few games. That Detroit game is looming large.
Huge, and it's going to be a prime Monday night hockey game. And the Senators are 4-1 on prime Monday night hockey. So dial it in. Get ready for a huge January stretch for the Ottawa Senators. Hey, I'm seeing in the chat, and I saw on social media a bunch. We talked about it briefly this morning on Locked On Sens, but the Brady Tkachuk slander by this fan base, that's something we're going to dive into on a full segment tomorrow on the podcast. Look at the numbers and the impact that Brady's had since his return after a 20-game absence with a broken thumb. So stay tuned for our thoughts on that on tomorrow's show, as well as previewing that weekend game against the Winnipeg Jets. 4-3, the final score. The Senators get a big win against the Washington Capitals. Shane Pinto with 2 assists for this team. He's the only multi-point player. Otherwise, you got Timmy with an apple, Cousins with an apple, Michael Matteo gets an assist, Stephen Halliday keeps dishing, Thomas Chabot, Jake Sanderson showing some offense from the back end, and then, of course, the goal scorers in this game. In order, Nick Jensen, Ridley Gregg, David Perron, and Fabian Zetterlund with the game-winning goal. Let's get some Go Sens Goes in the chat. Leave a comment below on YouTube. That also helps us out with the algorithm. And follow us all on social media. You can find Jack Richardson, Brandon Piller, myself, and, of course, at Sens Central. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get yours, including on YouTube. This has been a Vibecast following a 4-3 win for the Ottawa Senators. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.